say, we guide our life to the wonderful time that you set out for us. That is worshiping, reflecting on that way. So you have to do what you do. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. So we sing the song together. I think this one, no one know this song before. But the kid, they know, they teach them for a long time. Beautiful. Can you stand together, please? Stand up, please.
Jesus.
Lord. Shout to the Lord, the earth, let us sing. Power and majesty, praise to the King. Mountains bow down and the seas will roar at the sound of your name. I sing for joy at the work of your hands. Forever I'll love you, forever I'll stand. Nothing compares to the promise I have in you. Shall we say it again, okay? This is the day. We're going to clap hands, pray.
Answer to who the Spirit was in their scriptural worldview. A very precise answer. You know, when you read the Gospels, when you read the epistles, there's never any questions in there when Paul talks about the Spirit, or whether, you know, when he prays in the Spirit. They didn't say, "Hey, Paul, is that gibberish, or is that a language, and how do you do it?" They already understood. And I think even when we're so far removed, we can come to an understanding where when we hear people talk about the Spirit, that we can say, "Spirit, what is that one thing that we could point to know that this is, point to that it is the Spirit?" So let's get started. I'll leave that for later. The Holy Spirit. Question. Where is the first time that we hear the word Spirit in the Bible? The very first place.
Genesis.
Good answer. Very good answer. The first time God appears in the Bible. But let's go back to this slide. And the word that they use for spirit in the Old Testament, the Hebrew word is ruach, and the Greek is pneuma. And the meaning and the nuances it has, foremost, number one, spirit is breath. It is wind. It is spirit. And it's the state of mind. So I want you to say the word ruach. Now when we go through the scriptures, I want you to think about the word spirit, but pronounce it ruach or pneuma. Can we all say ruach? Ruach. That's spirit in Hebrew. Now when you put your mouth up, say ruach. Do you feel that? Do you feel that is breath? Ruach and breath are synonymous. You know, when you go to Big Bear and it's like 20 degrees out, and you take a big deep breath and you blow it out, you can see our life essence. You can see our breath. That is spirit. Wind. Wind is ruach. It's, I don't have to tell you. When you see the leaves moving, what is that? That's ruach. That's ruach. And we can't see it. We don't know where it comes and where it goes from, but we can see the effects that it has on trees, ground, water. You can see the wind, how it blows the waves of the sea. And spirit, that is ruach, God's ruach. That's his innermost self. That is Yahweh's, God's second self, is his ruach. And this is all intentional in the scriptures of how the Spirit is portrayed. And mind, that is usually our attitude, our emotions, our thoughts, within us, and we usually act according to that spirit that we have inside. So the first time God's Spirit appears in the Bible, it's page 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The word earth, when you see the word earth up there, what do you think of? What comes to mind when you see the word earth? Work with me. I don't want this to be boring.
I think it's soil. Soil.
Oh, you've been reading your Bible, huh? Because, most people see it as a round globe hanging in space. And that first image came out in, I think, 1998. And the soil. What shape was the soil in? Flat earth. Remember these people, this was written about 3,500 years ago. So it's not, the Bible's not about science and the Big Bang and all this other stuff. It is flat earth society. And you have a Bible here? This is from Genesis 2. This is the account of the heavens and the earth when they were created. When the Lord God made the earth and the heavens, and no shrub of the field had yet appeared on the earth, and no plant of the field had yet sprung up, for the Lord God had not sent rain on the earth. And there was no man to work the ground. The streams came up from the earth and the water the whole surface of the ground. That's a different take on Genesis 1. So you're right. It is soil and water, and that is the Bisu, the raging seas around the water, and like he said, the soil. So in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. Does that sound like a good place to live? Where we could go out and have something to eat and a picnic and enjoy life? Whatever formless and void and darkness, it's not good. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. So we have a very bold statement in sentence 1 saying God created the heavens and the earth. And in the second line we have Spirit of God. Why doesn't it just say just God created? You know, within that sentence right there, you should be getting a picture that this God is a very different being. He is pluralistic, and yet he is distinct. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. So when God said, "Let there be light," we did that Ruach thing, you can feel your breath. When he spoke the word, it is like the Ruach, God's Ruach was released out onto the world. And who was waiting there over the waters? It was the Spirit of God. And what did the Spirit do? We have a earth that was that speaks to the nature of the land. The land was uncultivated. It was dark. There was no green life. It was what you'd say chaos. Water on one side, and the land was desert. Nothing can live there. And then we have God who created, and we have Spirit hovering over the waters. And when God speaks, He speaks His ruach. He releases it. And it goes down, and what does the Spirit do? He brings light, life, beauty, and order and symmetry out of that watery chaos. And when the earth was formed, who brought the green life up out of the ground? It was the Spirit. So, in the first sentence of the Bible, we have the depiction of the world that we have land and water, and there is nothing there that can sustain life. And the Spirit brings light, life, beauty, and order. And when you hear the word Spirit in the context, I want you to think back on Genesis 1, because when we look through the rest of the Scriptures, this is what the role of the Spirit. This is what He always does, and this is who He is. Breath, the breath of God. Then Yahweh God formed Adam of dirt from the ground and breathed into his nostrils the ruach of life, and man became an animated creature. The Spirit of life. So we see in this scripture how the ancient Hebrews would have seen the Spirit as the ruach of God that brings life into all everything that breathes. As long as I have as long as I have life within me, the ruach of God is in my nostrils. So, do I walk around like that every day thinking every breath I take that it comes from the Spirit of God?
We should.
Yeah, I should. You're right about that. But thank God when I wake up in the morning, I am aware that I have life and I'm alive because it is the Spirit of God within me. And when you die, the dust returns to the ground it came from, and the Spirit returns to God who gave it. So basically, we are on borrowed breath. Even right now, I'm only alive as long as I have my next breath. And, and as people, we plan, I'm not saying anything's wrong with it, but we plan 6 months, a year, maybe 2 years or 5 years. But we're very, very fragile, and we're very dependent on our God. If God decided to take back His Spirit and gather back to himself. All mortal creatures would expire, and humanity would return to the dirt. So everything that makes this earth go, everything from the geckos, the mosquitoes, the bugs and worms on the ground, it is the Spirit of God that makes this world go. And so nowhere in here do we find the idea or concept that this world is wound up like a clock and it automatically keeps on going. You know, that is what my relatives believe in, that the Creator Spirit that is, everything is divine. The rocks are divine, the trees are divine. I'm an emanation of the divine, and it just keeps going. We don't find that here. Yahweh God is the author. Meanwhile, the skies grew black with clouds, the wind rose, and a heavy rain started to fall, and Ahab rode off to Jezreel. The story to this is Mount Carmel, where Elijah had the meeting with the 450 prophets of Baal to see who was God, and Israel's supposed to choose who they were going to serve that day. And Baal was the storm god. The Canaanites believed that was the god that brought in the winds that watered the land and made it fertile. So this is after the incident that the fire come up from the rock and devoured the sacrifice and dried up the water that they had poured on the sacrifice. And Elijah asked his servant to go, prayed 7 times, and each time asked the servant to go look out and see. And he said he's seen a little hand, a little cloud like the palm of a man's hand rise from the sea. And the wind arose. And this is a theophany of how the ancients thought of the Spirit. Then the man and the wife heard the sound of Yahweh God as he was walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And they hid from Yahweh God among the trees of the garden. The word walking, spirits don't walk. That is Yahweh God embodied as a human being. And in the cool of the day, now when you look at that word and really look at it in the Hebrew Scriptures, Yahweh walking and the trees moving, you know, that speaks to his glory. He has a presence, a heaviness, that when he walks, there's a presence. It is like when you get in the swimming pool and you run your finger and you see the waves that emanate out. Or like Donald Trump, when he comes in his motorcade, everything is back. He has, that's his glory. That's his glory, that he has clearance wherever he goes. He can walk through a crowd of people and they all move back for him. So we have the glory of God. So there's, with the Spirit, there's a presence that can be discerned. It could be seen. It could be felt. Do you think he was just taking an evening stroll in the garden? Have you ever seen one of your parents, when they're looking for you and you've done something wrong, and you see them, you hear them coming, and then you see them? There's an air that, that you're going to get your butt beat. And if you think about that verse, there has already been a serpent in the garden. And we sing like in the first verse, the wind arose because it was the theophany of the Lord. In the second verse, God is coming in judgment. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night, Yahweh God drove back the sea with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. We've all seen the movie where Charles Heston gets out there and he raises his staff and the wind blows. To make a channel through the sea, who knows how wide it was? A couple of football fields or something, 600,000 people. And I think of a Type 5 typhoon times 7. That is it speaks to the power of Yahweh God. And the power is His Spirit, and it's in the wind. Oh, yes. I want to read a little bit out of here of Peter's book, and I want you to think about it and give me an answer. This part is going to come out right. He's making his prayer of allegiance to God. And then he's going to ask for a sign. He's going to ask for a sign that Jesus is real. So he said, I finished the sinner's prayer. I felt a storm blowing in, causing me to shudder, and my hair standing on end all over the body. Wow, that is something, huh? I felt like a storm blowing in, causing me to shudder, and my hair standing on end all over the body. Moreover, my body was so stiff and cold for a moment that I couldn't move. Sweat bathing my whole torso. Opening my eyes, I saw that my bedroom door was open. A cool breeze blowing against me. Finally, I found myself lying down alone in the room crying copious tears and nasal mucus flowing. I like that detail. You know, he left out the boogers coming down from his nose. But in all seriousness, what was that he felt physically? Work with me, people. Do you see how the Spirit worked in his life to confirm the answer for confirmation to Jesus, that Jesus was real, that he did the right thing?
Is this the part he accepted Jesus?
This is,
He made a sin in private.
he had already prayed the prayer. And then he said, you know, he had asked for a sign that Jesus was real. He said, I felt like a storm blowing in, causing me to shudder, and my hair standing on end all over my body. It's probably like Adam and Eve. Moreover, my body was so stiff and cold for a moment that I couldn't move. Sweating bathed my whole torso. Upon opening my eyes, I saw that my bedroom door was open. A cool breeze blowed against me. The Spirit of Yahweh God came and answered his prayer and confirmed that Jesus was indeed who he gave his life to. So how does this Holy Spirit work in our lives? And it could be as simple as this, that you just feel a breeze, you know, a cool breeze on your face, on your arm. Amazing. I mean, that's, like I said, when you see the word breath, wind, mind, spirit, think Yahweh's Ruach, because he is still the same God that works in the same way today as he did then. Just because these were old, ancient, flat earth people, they understood who the Spirit of God is. So when we come today, he hasn't changed. But, you know, when I hear people saying, you know, the Spirit of God is telling me this or that, and it doesn't have anything to do with life, light, beauty, and order. You know, I listen, you know, and let the Scriptures confirm it, because that is what he always does. He doesn't work in any other different way. Even in these verses, these are how they understood the Spirit. What kind of wind? What kind of cool breeze? Oh, well, I guess it's time to quit.
You can make some conclusions.
The conclusion. Yeah, it's hard to draw a conclusion because except that Whatever you hear in today's popular Christianity, when you hear people say, I have a feeling, or there's somebody here, it may be so. It may be so, but the Spirit He does not beat around the bush. He is direct, and He does these things always. Number one is life, light, beauty, and order. That is what He brings into people's lives. That is how He answers prayer. That is who He is. So whatever you hear, whatever you hear people talk about the Spirit, they may not believe in the same Spirit that you do, or may not have the same understanding, but it is here for all people that read the Bible that we should all have that one thing in our heart when we hear the word Spirit. You can say, oh yes, it is this. It is this. It's always about life. And the Spirit is always bound up with Jesus. Jesus and the Spirit. You know, to see the glory of God, you must it is bound up. See the glory of God is bound up in the Spirit, and the Spirit is bound up in Jesus. They are inseparable. They both. If you want to see who the Spirit is, look at the life of Jesus. And if you want to know what the Spirit if you want to look at the Spirit, and then you look at Jesus, and if you want to look at Jesus, He is a man that was immersed in the Spirit. He was fully human. So every day that He woke up, every breath that He breathed, He was powered by the Spirit. And that same Spirit lives within us. An hour and 15 minutes. Okay.
Thank you so much. Give hand. Thank you. We can listen again next time. So we set up the last song. We go one round only because time. Thank you for the lies.
strong spirit, send the first, the rest of the conference, and give us the fresh breath, and maybe we achieve the next week prayer.